Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by drroto.com.
Oh, baby. I am Johnny Danger. With me, my friend Chris Emrick, or the Hierarchy, if you prefer, according to his screen right now. And we got a little bit of a throwback night, Chris. We tried to get the gang back together for a little draft for Upside. And I think this is really an appropriate get back together moment because, as usual, Adam White bailed on us.
Yeah, I threw out the idea that we should wear suits. I did it for the Gold Card podcast a couple years ago. I got them to come back. I wore a suit. That was a big mistake just because I was extremely hot halfway through it. I had to take off my coat. Nobody else wore suits, but here we are. We're wearing hoodies and, ready to look at a unusual 13-game slate.
Yeah, I'm drinking a nice French wine. I don't know about you over there.
No, I'm not drinking. I got to wake up early to watch Worlds, and I'm going to do some other drugs tomorrow. And I don't.
Fair. Yeah,
they would inhibit my sleep tonight, so I'm going to do them in the morning. Nothing hard, nothing illegal. It's all over the counter. You can buy it at your local smoke shop. Completely legal, folks.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Well, we're going to take a look at the Week 8 DFS. Mostly DraftKings is what we talk about. Feel free to drop any questions if you want. We'll get to them or we'll make fun of you. One or the other. Doesn't really matter. Anyways, first of all, 13 games. Week 8. That's weird.
Yeah, I mean, I thought so. I like to kind of like open it up at the beginning of the week, like Tuesday, Wednesday, take a look and just see how many games there are on the early slate, because I also like to see how many games are on the late slate, just because if it's going to be a juicy 3-game late slate, that's always exciting. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Once it gets up to 4 or 5 games, it becomes pretty disgusting. I actually don't know how many were on here because as soon as I opened it up, I saw 13 games.
That's 5 in the afternoon.
Well, is that including the Cincinnati game, or the Cincinnati game I know got moved up to like a 1 o'clock time frame, I think?
I don't know if they moved it or not. That's a good question. But I love that game.
Well, okay, it did get moved up. There are still 5 games. So 5-game late slate, not as exciting. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. It's just definitely something you have to approach differently. But a 13-game slate, week 8 is very abnormal. I don't particularly understand.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a strange situation, but that's okay. It gives us lots of options, and lots of options there are this week. How you want to do this? You want to go game by game? What are we going to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can run through some of these games and maybe skip over some that are less interesting. I think the problem that we may end up with is that a lot of these games are inclusive of a team that has a high total on one side, but not on the other side. So I guess trying to find games that are going to be competitive. Do you just want to run through this one by one? Let's
just go down. That's what we used to do in the old draft for Upside days. So let's go ahead and do that. The first game I have on the docket here is the Baltimore Ravens at the Cleveland Browns. Ravens 8.5-point favorites at the moment and a 45.5 total. This is kind of what you're talking about, right? One side super heavily favored. But the Ravens are a team that don't take their foot off the gas. So can you get on board with some Lamar and some Henry and maybe some Bateman for 4 out of 5 weeks if he does it again in double digits DFS?
Well, I think you got to look at Zay Flowers on the questionable. He's questionable for Sunday's game, limited practice Friday. I assume he'll end up playing. It just does make it a little difficult to kind of trust any of these guys, but there are 2 receivers in this game that may make it into your build as salary savings. One going to be Bateman, the other one going to be Tillman from Cleveland. There is a fair amount of chatter that Jameis Winston is going to revitalize this offense, and what kind of ownership are we looking at possibly with Jameis Winston? It looks like almost nothing.
Yeah, nothing. And I got Tillman as actually, the current model is not liking him at all. The people are chasing, or you think it'll update by Sunday morning?
I saw this more on Twitter in terms of a guy that got 12 targets, a guy that maybe is stepping in to pick up some of those targets that were left over as Cooper left. And then the thought that you're going to be a more pass-centric or efficient passing offense with Jameis Winston. I mean, obviously, it's a step up, right? But how much of a step up is it really? We've seen the Jameis Winston experiment time and time again. And I can't say that it gives me a lot of reasons to want to play him outside of the fact that it's 5,200. Tillman's 3,300. You could go ahead and throw in Njoku on the other side of that at 5,100. And your tight end in your 3-man stack is almost your most expensive player in that.
Right.
But opens up a lot of opportunities on the other side because, look, Baltimore has been one of the best offenses, if not the best offense, right there with Detroit. But their defense, a little banged up and haven't been very good. So, running it back and running back this game is something that, I could get behind. I'm not sure that I want to, and I'm not sure that this is a slate where we're stacking a game. But
I mean, what I'm seeing here is that there's a lot of ownership on Lamar. There's a decent amount on Henry. The other side is basically unowned. I guess people have a unrealistic view of Baltimore's defense this year because we've seen them, have very low ownership in games against them. And I like Tillman. I think people are going to look at it and think, but they're playing Baltimore. But he blew up last week. But man, he's still 3,300. I mean, is he going to get 12 targets? Probably not, but maybe. So I dig it. But I'm probably staying off of Lamar this week. He's not only the most expensive, but highest owned projected guy. I just like some other place later. How about the next game? Let's look at Indianapolis Colts and the Houston Texans in Houston. 5-point favorites are the Texans. I have seen some interesting stats. I had to Google it, found some stats about CJ Stroud without Nico Collins. In games with Nico Collins, he has something like a 68-69% completion rate. Without Nico Collins, it dips all the way down to 59. Also, I think people have a unrealistic view of CJ Stroud himself as fantasy value. He's only had 2 games in his career over 25 points of fantasy. He's only had 9 games over 18 points of fantasy. What do you think about this?
Yeah, so I think that this Houston offense has been lackluster in terms of what the expectation was going in outside of
except for my man Joe.
Yeah, I mean, look, Joe's just getting a lot of these goal line touches. He's getting a lot of stuff and work in the red zone. He's scoring a lot of touchdowns, and that's bolstering it. But now Taylor is going to be back for this game. It's one of the few games that I think could be pretty competitive. These two teams tend to play themselves or play each other close, even when one team is significantly better than the other. And the other thing is that this Indianapolis defense at the beginning of the year couldn't stop anybody when it came to the rush game. That has gotten a little bit better as time has gone on. So I don't know if there's really a whole lot in this game that I to get excited about, except for perhaps maybe a Jonathan Taylor.
Sure. And I think Richardson, when he plays and has Taylor, it's a different quarterback. He's better when Richardson and Taylor are together. So it's interesting. I think this game is going to be closer than the 5-point spread. In fact, if you read my article on drroto.com, one of my 3 best bets this week is taking Indianapolis Colts +5. Just for the record, I've been 15-5-1 against the spread this year.
Okay.
Like it.
All right. Well,
I like it. But I don't know. I like mixing a little bit. I could sprinkle in. I mean, I do like Diggs. I think he's going to be, maybe more owned than I like. So I'm probably going to fade this game, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this, just like the last game, both fit into like a large GPP type of situation. This isn't something that I'm targeting for a small entry, sub 300, sub 500 person tournament. It's going to have a lot more risk involved. But if I'm playing the $3 20 man, which I am, maybe I'm going to go right back to my Richardson, Adonai Mitchell stacks that I
flop leg, baby,
in there last week. Yeah,
flop
absolutely.
Leg.
I think I have to have at least 25% because man, when it hits this week, if I'm not playing it, it'll without question.
But Chris, is this going to be throwback draft for upside where you played Derek Carr stacks like 8 weeks in a row, saying it's going to hit this time, it's going to hit this time, it's going to hit? Well,
it eventually hit, and I didn't play it. So I don't know if you have to go through the whole stack. Maybe you use the same rationale and reasoning that you have and say, okay, so Richardson plays better with Taylor, so then you can play Adonai Mitchell as kind of a flyer in your lineup because really that's the guy, or maybe even Pierce, mix those in a couple different places. But look, the wide receiving core is fully healthy, it looks like, for Indianapolis. So you're going to have Pittman down. You're going to get absolutely no ownership on some of these Indianapolis guys. So
and a bunch of the chatter I've been hearing, Chris, is that people think that the CJ Stroud stack is a blow up spot this week, and I just don't buy it. I'm not into it at all. Can't do it.
Yeah,
I'm out.
Let's move
on to the next game, shall we? I kind of like this game here. We got the Green Bay Packers heading down to Jacksonville. The Jacksonville defense has been atrocious. It's 49.5, and Green Bay may score 40. The Packers are favored by 4. They've got, again, a healthy wide receiver core. We've got Love playing out of his mind. I like to play Love without any of his wide receivers because pretty much all of them have the ability to catch touchdown. But I can mix and match anyone in that side. And on the other side, man, I think this is a great spot for Ingram. And so I think I'm going to have some Green Bay with some Ingram run backs here.
Yeah, well, I think you can play Ingram. I think the other guy that you can play is Brian Thomas Jr. That's a guy that has been, I think, one of the deepest route runners. He's been getting a lot of targets. He had one down week 2 weeks ago, but that would be one of my targets. He's one of my favorite props too. Let's see what he's looking like this week. He's been kind of trending up a little bit, going towards like the 55 yards. And that's typically where I like to attack, is the kind of the yardage prop with him.
Sure.
I think he's hit maybe like 4 out of 5 weeks. Let's take a look here. Let's see if I can get this to.
Are you worried about Jair Alexander at all?
No, not really.
Because we kind of hear that week to week, but I don't know, man. I think you can attack this game on both sides. The Packers defense has been pretty good, so I don't know about doing like a full Jacksonville stack. I think I like the Green Bay side better. Interesting note about Green Bay. I didn't update it after this week, but I don't think Jacobs ran one in again last week. So going into last week, they were 14 passes, 3 rushes for their touchdowns in the red zone, the highest disparity of all of NFL. So Jacobs just doesn't run it in. They like to throw those short passes in the red zone.
But he did score one last week.
He did, but it was a pass.
Yes.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is I just kind of like Love. You can mix him with any of his people. You can play him without any of his people and just go elsewhere. I think Love is a lock for 24 points again.
I think one of the guys that I like to play him with is Tucker Kraft.
Sure.
I mean, he was a darling back in week 5, high ownership, absolutely blew up, had a dud 2 weeks ago in Arizona, bounced back with just a decent performance, early touchdown, 3 catches for 33 in that touchdown, kind of 3x the salary. He's still at a decent price, 4,600, so a little bit cheaper than some of those other tight ends. He might be a guy that you can mix and match there and go with Brian Thomas. His prop is 4.5 receptions, 56 yards. I think I'd take the over on the 56.
Yeah, that sounds good. I've done a lot of building, goofing off this week, and I have found myself in quite a few spots where double tight end has made sense this week. There's a lot of good tight end plays this week, Chris. There's a lot of them.
There are, but it's 13 games. I just venture to guess you can find somebody else to play in your flex spot.
It's possible. We'll see. We'll see in the Danger DFS League whether I go 2 tight ends or not.
That would be the place that you could do it.
That would be the place. That would be the place you could do it. Anyways, I like this game. Let's keep moving. We got the Tennessee Titans heading to Detroit, 11-point favorites. It always makes me nervous when spreads go over 9 or 10, Chris, but I know you're a diehard Lions fan. What do you think of this game? Are they going to cover that spread? Are they going to crush that spread? Are they going to play down to their competition this week? What's going to go on in this game?
Man, you look at the strengths of this Tennessee team. They're a team that needs to keep it close and just doesn't have the tools to be able to compete in a high-scoring game. Now, they have a decent defense, but you look at what Detroit has been able to do, even against a good defense like Minnesota. It's harder to say that after yesterday, but up until the point when Detroit had played them, one of the better defenses, and Detroit just slashed them. Ate up the Brian Flores defense. To the point that I made prior is, yeah, the Rams were able to score quite a few points, but this wasn't the Rams that we've seen all year either. This was
Right.
a higher powered offense, had some of their tools together. So I don't know how this Tennessee team keeps this close. I mean, I know that we don't necessarily always love these double digit spreads, but Detroit at home, Tennessee just lost Hopkins. Yeah, I think this is a Detroit kind of romp.
Yeah, so my problem with this is, looking at some of the projections for the stacks over at PayDirt, and you see they love the Goff, Amon-Ra, Laporta stacks. My issue here is, what if that defense scores a touchdown? What if Monty and Gibbs just both run the ball 22 times? What if this game is literally 24-0 because Tennessee can't do anything and Detroit just plods 3 yards at a time because they don't have to do anything else? So I have a hard time going this game unless you're going to go Gibbs or Monty, but their prices are starting to get up there a little bit.
Yeah, I think the issue that you have is that there's a very real possibility that they split time too. It's just one of those situations where a team gets so far out ahead that that they don't really need to push the gas down in those later quarters, and then they have 2 running backs, so you don't know who they're necessarily going to lean on. Montgomery could just as easily fumble as could Gibbs and not get played the rest of the game. So yeah, I agree with you.
Is there any sneaky picks in here, like a Khalif Raymond, a Tim Patrick, anything else you like on garbage time when the studs have sat down?
I think both of those guys are ones that you can consider. But again, I think a guy like Tillman around that same price point is a little more attractive to me.
I can agree with you. Let's go back. You just said something about the game Thursday about how this wasn't the Rams team that we've seen all year because they get Puka, they get cut back, right? There was a lot of rumors swirling around. Stafford would get traded, Cup would get traded. There was a lot of rumors that those two might go together to Minnesota for Darnold and Hawk and a pick. After this performance last night, do you think this whole team has turned around from being sellers to, holy crap, the Niners have a losing record and we can take this division?
I think that's a real possibility. I don't think that there's any validity to the Stafford rumor. I don't think that guy's ever broke any news.
Right.
The one that put it out there. So I don't think that there's any validity. It doesn't make sense. No part of it makes sense to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I honestly thought the Minnesota does make sense because Darnold's not their future. He's played great, but they love JJ. Get a rental in for, a run for this year after they just got beat down by the Lions in division. So, it piqued my interest because just enough things made enough sense. And then they came out and just played a really nice football game and realized that they can take this division. So I think they stand completely pat.
I think that point would be valid if Darnold hadn't been as good as he had been all year.
Sure.
If this was a situation where this defense was carrying them, the running game was carrying them, and the obvious flaw in the team was the quarterback play, then yeah, going out and getting a rental would probably fix that. But that really hasn't been the issue. They haven't had an issue. The only issue that they really ran into was they ran into a Detroit team that is, I guess at this point, unquestionably better. But how
do you like that the Detroit hangover they're calling it now? When you get beat by Detroit, you lose the next game. It's becoming a thing.
It is.
All right, let's keep going on. I've got the Falcons and the Buccaneers. Man, this game looked a lot different until both Evans and Godwin went out. This was kind of, during the games last week, I kind of circled this one for this week going, man, I think I like this game. No Godwin, no Evans. Do the Bucs have enough power to keep up with the Falcons even at home?
No, I don't know if this is a game that I want a whole lot of.
Not anymore. And Bucky Irving, I think, is going to miss the game too.
Well, I don't know if I would have wanted it. This is going to be a divisional match, second time that they've played in a couple of weeks. The places that I think that I want on Atlanta would be maybe the running game, but I don't really like to play running backs into Tampa, especially something where you have a situation where you have 2 running backs that are both going to be completely viable within the scheme of the offense. I suppose a couple of the spots that you could go to, and this is why you're probably not going to some of those discount Detroit wide receivers is you've got Sterling Shepard, you've got McMillan, some of these guys that are obviously going to get some level of run, and have prices that they don't need to get that much to justify.
Sure. And I'm seeing a lot of love for the other side with London and Mooney. My issue here is where the Bucks were playing very fast, kind of slash football, right? Throw big bombs after opening up the outside to Godwin. I think they have to play a slower paced kind of grind style with the crew they have now. And so I think I'm out on the Falcons guys as well. I do like Mooney. He's still priced at the right price for somebody that can break 20 points. But yeah, I'm kind of out on this game, except for Cade Otton. I do like Cade Otton at 3,500. Another tight end I like.
Yeah, they don't really have a guy that I think it's going to take the top off of the defense. So I think this is going to be a lot of dink and dunk. And so I think that plays into, I mean, I guess you could go back to like a Rashad White.
Rashad White
doesn't necessarily thrive as a running back, but 5,700 thrives as a receiver.
And Bucky Irving misses the game. Yeah. Maybe
and
Sean Tucker gets a little love for I don't know what's Sean Tucker's price. I haven't even looked at it.
5,200. But if you assume that Atlanta should win this game, maybe at least get out into a lead. Tampa's going to have to throw the ball. That means going to be probably a fair amount of Rashad White. So
make a call, McMillan or Shepard. McMillan's more talented at this point in his career. Shepard and Baker went to school together.
It's tough. I guess I
split.
It's hard to say to me. I don't know. Go one way. So here's my thought process: is Shepard's been that guy that's filled into this type of role before. We've seen them like short-handed in New York, and Shepard come out and get like a 10-target game. I don't know if he's going to get that here. Maybe I'm kind of thinking of him in a different role, in a different situation, and applying that to this. The fact that you told me that he went to school with Baker makes that narrative there. That means they took showers together, right?
That's right.
The good old shower narrative. So outside of that, I probably would have let McMillan, but the shower narrative kind of evens it out for me.
That's fair enough. There you go. All right, let's go to the Jets and the Patriots. I don't know why, but we're going to go there anyways. 7-point favorites are the Jets on the road. It seems a little wild to me. I mean, I get that the Patriots aren't great. I also get that, we got to watch Devontae Adams lose back-to-back games to Pittsburgh for two different teams. That was pretty fun. I don't really have a read on this game much at all, except for I like Breece Hall.
Yeah, I mean, maybe get a little flop flag. Devontae Adams should score a touchdown. That's my belief, right? Like that's a place that I would put some money.
7-point road favorite seems off.
I mean, New England's been really bad. There's a lot of dysfunction there. You've got Belichick and Brady kind of questioning Mayo in ways that I don't know. It just doesn't seem really very professional. Maybe he's already lost the locker room. Who knows? I think the Jets come in and win this game. 7 points is a lot of points for a Jets team that has been unimpressive at times, but an extra week for Devontae.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I
prop bet on Devontae. I think I could do. I don't think I want to play him.
I
feel like
touchdown.
I like Breece Hall. I think he's fine. I think he's going to be very popular too. But looks like actually I'm looking at it now. The most popular running back play on the field this week. So yeah,
by a lot.
Anyways, yeah, by a lot. So I'm not alone in that, and that means I won't play him. Arizona Cardinals in the Miami Dolphins. We have Tua back. I have been on the opinion, Chris, that I think it's possible that this team is just bad, and that Tua coming back just doesn't flip the switch and make them great again. It could happen, and a lot of people think it's going to happen, and that stack is very popular right now, according to ownership. And Tyreek and Achane both have breaking slate, capabilities in them. But I mean, they were bad. Not just like, oh wow, they need a better quarterback. Like this entire team is dysfunctional. It can't be just Tua to me.
So I think that it is to some extent. We saw this offense kind of click when he was in there. I think he does change the entire dynamic by being able to get some of those deeper passes to Tyreek that open some other stuff up for Achane, for Waddle. I think what you're doing, and I think this is completely justified, is that you're a three entry kind of guy. You're gonna have one share of Tyreek in one of those lineups, right? Like you're gonna have one, but you're kind of just validating why you shouldn't have him in the other two.
No, I'm gonna play probably that 23 max or that $3.20 max with you and play him in there. I won't play him in.
Okay.
I won't play him in my 3 max.
I mean,
I won't do it.
That's
the thing is for me, Chris, is like I get it, it's his offense, right? But like last year we had Tyreek Hill almost become a 2,000-yard wide receiver, and Tua finished as like quarterback 18. So
look, I'm not telling you to play the stack. I think I think that you play one of the 2 wide receivers, or you could play both of the wide receivers with like a Connor run back. I think you just completely avoid the QB situation.
You could play my Jordan Love in there and then play those 2 wide receivers.
There you go. I actually kind of like that. I mean, I don't get as wrapped up as I used to in terms of like having to have these full stacks with a run back. I think we've seen enough times that that isn't necessarily what's going to be optimal. I get it in smaller kind of GPPs, 200, 300, 400, 500 people. What I play a lot is that it's easier if you can get that game right to finish in first and have that equity. And that makes a ton of sense. But we are talking about a 13-game slate. So if you are playing in a larger GPP, to get that kind of first place leverage, I don't think having 2 guys from the same team is necessarily the right way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a pretty good year. The one that I won big on was a complete game stack, but that was not how I've been playing. I have done very well with doing things like Lamar and Henry, or just like going a little untraditional and not trying to fit 2 pass catchers in. Just looking at like if Jacobs actually scored more running touchdowns, a thing like that, where Lamar and Henry's nice because if he throws the ball, you get the touchdown. If they run the ball, it's Henry, you get the touchdown, generally speaking. Lamar has not been doing red zone rushes like he has because they have Henry now. So I'm with you there. Yeah, the one big win that I had was a full game stack. And that was just like, I don't know, kind of on a whim. So I'm kind of with you. All right, let's keep going on. Let's talk about the team that I won with a full game stack and whether or not I can do it again here. We've got the Bengals at home hosting the Eagles, 2.5 points here. I'm a little shocked that it's only at 47.5. I thought this would be more like a 49-50. Why is that a little lower than I think? I mean, the Eagles defense kind of sucks. The Bengals defense has gotten better, but still not great. It seems low. It seems low to me.
It feels like it's been low with Cincinnati throughout the entire season. And looking at this ownership for some reason, well, I mean, not for some reason, there's kind of justified reasons that T. Higgins in this offense is coming in right behind Tyreek Hill for ownership. Whereas I think I'd probably, given that information, I'd spend up and go to Jamar Chase. I, like you, have had some of my best success with stacking the Bengals. Not necessarily this season, but I mean, I've had some success. I didn't take anything down. I think it was last week even with a Cincinnati stack, with a Higgins stack. It was just a lineup that I didn't necessarily think was that great, and I put it together. It didn't feel good because it wasn't chalky. It wasn't what you'd expect. It was built differently. A couple touchdowns. Burrow didn't have a great game, but paying up where I did for quarterback with Burrow last week kind of made the rest of my lineup a little bit different, and they were able to go off. So yeah, I mean, I think that this is a game that I'm kind of excited to go after, especially when you're thinking of Jamar Chase at 7% versus T. Higgins at 21%. That's a nice pivot with some really good leverage.
Yeah, I built a lineup just for fun, Chris. And you want me to tell it to you?
Sure.
Let me find it. I just sent it somewhere. There it is. All right. So I start with Joe Burrow.
Okay.
I've got Chase and Higgins. I got a run back with Barkley, Jamal Williams. I got Tillman in there to save some money. I got my man Evan Ingram at the tight end. In double tight end punt play, Lucas Krull out in Denver with the Bears defense. I ain't even mad at it. I ain't mad at it, Chris.
I mean, that's interesting. Maybe you plug in some of these cheaper wide receivers that we've talked about into some of those slots. Like some McMillan, some Sterling Shepard, maybe because of ownership. Maybe even go grab that, one of those Detroit wide receivers as well.
Maybe they could. It's possible. It's very possible. All right, where did we leave off? We were talking about Eagles, Bengals. On the other side, Barkley is almost no ownership. I think maybe because they think just the passing game is going to do the job. And he's 8,300. It's a lot. There's a lot of expensive plays. Pricing seems pretty sharp for the most part this week, outside of the Tyreek Hill and Waddle, probably because they made those prices before Tua was announced coming back. But that's going to go noticed in ownership. I got Barkley right now, and then you're probably seeing the same thing. Sub 2% owned at 8,300.
Yeah, I mean, that's you gotta love that. You do. I mean,
you got a guy that can score 34 points, and you may be the only one on him in a small tournament. Kind of like it.
Yeah. I mean, there's another guy we haven't gotten to, and it's a game that I like.
Well, what's next? You want to go there? Let's go there.
Have we finished the 1:00 games?
That's the 1:00 games in a nutshell. Yes, sir.
All right. So we're going to hop over to the 4:00 games. We've got Buffalo and Seattle. Buffalo has not been great against running backs. Call it scheme, call it a lot of things. And then you've got Ken Walker.
I knew you were going to Ken Walker. That's my boy.
His involvement in the pass game makes him very interesting. His pricing now being up there as a result of this, right there with Barkley, right there with Derrick Henry, makes him a very interesting play here. Although I think Buffalo wins this game. I think they cover the -3. I think it's my best bet, and I'm going to tell you why. I saw this earlier. I don't remember the name, but the referee that is taking care of this game is 3-0 this year in favor of road favorites covering the spread. Over the last couple years, he's at like 65.5%. So,
that's
funny. As much as people, like to harp about refs causing problems in games and deciding games, a close game, 3-point spread, that is something where the refs can have a determining factor. And if he tends to like road favorites, I think that Buffalo's a best bet here.
Did you read my article?
Maybe this is.
Did you read my article, Chris?
I didn't read your article. No.
I made 3 best bets. Indianapolis +5. We haven't talked about it, but Washington +3 and Buffalo -3. Those are my 3 best bets this week. I love the Buffalo -3 road favorites. I love it.
Only thing I'm seeing is that there's a little rain cloud here on DraftKings, so I don't know what the weather is going to look like in Seattle.
That's true. So DK Metcalf may miss this game. Does that make any extra interest in Lockett or JSN for you? Or do you think it's just rely more on Ken Walker and maybe some extra dump off passes if they're behind?
Oh, no. I mean, I think that you have to look at Lockett. You have to look at JSN. You could possibly, how do you want to stack this game? I mean, you could go with Josh Allen. He could have to do a lot, but you could go to Geno Smith at 5,900. He's been one of the, I'd say, more prolific passers in a league that's kind of gotten away from that when you just look at these attempts. And these have been close games or games that they've been trailing. So the Seahawks defense hasn't been able to stop people, but 56, 40, 52. And then last week, a 28, which is kind of the anomaly for him. But the guy,
you want to know why? Because I put him in one of my 3 lineups. That's why he only threw 25.
I bet is over on attempts and completions, and so that was super.
We got to get together on these things and make sure that we go the opposite way afterwards. No, this game honestly, it speaks to me. I think it's being kind of ignored. That's just my gut feeling because I'm not hearing chatter about it. What's the actual ownership say about this game? Because I haven't heard a whole lot. We already talked about Walker being, 4% owned. But even on the other side, where's Cook? Is Cook even a play? I don't know.
So Josh Allen's got a 3% ownership.
Cook's at 2.3%.
And wide receivers, I think they're being ignored. This might be a game that.
This is a smash game. This is where we play, Chris.
This is where we play. We play this game. Nobody's playing this game. We play this game.
Yeah, it's kind of strange to think that look, there's two ways that you can approach quarterbacks. There's the guys that are going to go like 5X at the 5-6K or 3X and really not do a whole lot. But then there are always a couple quarterbacks that can just go absolutely nuclear and carry your lineup. Lamar Jackson is one of them. His ownership dictates that. A young Jalen Hurts was that guy. He hasn't been. But outside of that, there's not a lot of guys that have that same kind of dual threat that just vulture those touchdowns the same way that Josh Allen does.
Absolutely.
I mean, how many times have you looked at a Josh Allen putting up 35, 40, 45 points? That's not what you're expecting here at 7,800, but it's certainly within the range of outcomes.
But so I mean, I got Cooper at 2% owned, and I think his projections are low. They have his median projection at 9 points, and I think that's kind of low. I think they're going to target this guy. I think they want him to feel welcome there. I think that they need him to feel. Cooper's one of those ego guys. He needs the ball thrown to him. And you could tell that they forced that play to him in the end zone when he got his first touchdown. I don't know if you saw the replay on that, but he literally like went over to the other wide receiver and was kind of like, what am I supposed to do? And that guy's like, run that way. And then he did, and they threw him the touchdown.
Yeah. And I mean, I thought it was a good response too in the press conference after. He's like, no, man, he knew to play.
Yeah, he
was
just
asking me something else.
No, he wanted to know if I like pineapple on pizza, bro.
Dude, that is sharp. I wouldn't have said that.
He wanted to know. He wanted to know if a hot dog was a sandwich or a taco. We were just talking.
I would have been like, yeah, dude, he didn't know the play. He's only been here a couple days. It's tough.
Yeah.
So
that'd been funny. I love this game, Chris. I think you can play it so many ways. I think I could do a 20 max, $3 field and play 15 versions of this game.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's what you do with the 20 max. You do a little Buffalo, Seattle. You do a little Philly, Cincinnati. Maybe you have a Ken Walker, Barkley lineup. And you just build around those two games and start kind of putting some of those other chalk pieces from the other games.
I'm gonna do what the talk show hosts do, where they make like they're making notes and then just scribble and circle it, underline it, dot it, and cross it. Yep, just did that. All right, let's keep moving, buddy. We have got the Saints and the Chargers going out to LA. We got a 7-point favorites in the Chargers at home. The Saints have just absolutely fallen off. Completely fallen off. Olave's healthy though. Olave's healthy.
They were anointed, and since then, it seems like it always happens. It always happens in week 2. A team beats another team that is perceived as a good team, and you think that they're a good team, but then you find out that the other team was just really bad, and that's what we found out about the Cowboys is they're really bad. So
they're not good.
For New Orleans to have the win that they did was just like the bottom level of competency.
Like Derek Carr MVP. I think I wrote that in the chat. I think that was me.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense to me as much as I like seeing it. The surrounding metrics and what was going on, play calls. It didn't make a ton of sense.
Yeah.
The thing that hurts here is that J.K. Dobbins is coming in at pretty high ownership. Makes a lot of sense. This New Orleans rush defense has been putrid the last couple of weeks, but man, this
Sean Payton broke them, dude. They went into Denver and Sean Payton broke them.
This guy Dobbins, though, not getting 80 yards on Monday cost me like $800. So feel pretty.
You're angry with him. You're angry with him.
Yeah, after you hit an anytime touchdown on Mike Evans, who only plays like half the first quarter, like that is a phenomenal bailout. And then to have Baltimore cover the first half money line after going down 14-0, having to intercept a pass in the end zone, I was like, man, this just feels absolutely destined. And then to do it on a Justice Hill 25-yard touchdown to go over his receiving prop, it's like, man, all of these things just click together in this first half so perfectly for me. And then you have Dobbins just not doing a damn thing.
Didn't do it at all. Anyways, do we like anything in this game? Do we like any of the random tight ends for New Orleans? Olave back, any interest to you? Kamara was projected to be the highest scoring running back last week, and that was a total disaster. Is there any love for him this week? His ownership is nothing.
I think that I think you can take a stab at one of these wide receivers, whether it's Olave, Tipton, any of these guys. So the thing that when you watch New Orleans, Carr does air it out to Shaheed quite a bit. I love taking his longest reception because it's typically like 18 and a half, even if it's 20, but you know he's going to get 3 or 4 opportunities to catch a 40 or 50-yard pass. So who fits into that role? Who's going to get those passes?
It's Rattler this week again, isn't it? Or is Carr going to play?
Oh, yeah, you're right. So, well, Carr's doubtful, so yeah, never mind. I mean, if it's Rattler, I have no interest in that. I would say that despite the fact that he's chalk and despite the fact that he hurt my feelings last week and hurt my bank account, if I was building, some of those 20 max lineups with the Buffalo, Seattle, the Philadelphia, Cincinnati, and I needed another running back, I think Dobbins 6,900 could fit in.
I like Dobbins. I mean, look, Kamara's 7,600, but you can beat the Chargers defense, and I've got him at 1% ownership. 1%.
Yeah.
There's very few running backs on any slate that can actually, seriously be projected to score every touchdown for their team. And that's Kamara and that's CMC.
Here's the problem. Taysom Hill is back.
Oh, Taysom Hill's back. All right.
Taysom Hill's back. That takes out some of that touchdown equity away from Kamara. I'd rather go chase the 1% with Ken Walker, chase the 1% with Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
Stick to Dobbins here.
I'm with you. All right, let's keep it rolling down. We got the Chicago Bears and the Washington Commanders. We're in Washington, 43 points. It doesn't look like Daniels will play, but I'm not 100%. There's been some cryptic messaging kind of, and I think it's gamemanship maybe more than anything, about how, obviously we didn't think about bringing him back last week because we were dominating that game. His mom was very complimentary about how he wasn't too injured. I don't know, man. Is Daniel? I mean, it looks like Paydirt's, projections and stuff here are kind of being run on the fact that they think that Daniels is playing. What do you think?
I think Daniels is playing, but that's
you live down there, man. What's the local street saying?
Man, I don't know. I just drive around in my car with the radio off, so I have no idea. This Washington defense has gotten a little bit better, but
sure.
I think
let me ask you this: is Caleb Williams overconfident because he just destroyed 2 terrible teams in a row and now thinks that he's back to being a Heisman candidate? What's the deal with Caleb?
Probably,
or is he actually looking good?
I feel like that's how Chicago fans feel here. So,
right.
I don't know where's DJ Moore in this ownership kind of conundrum.
Honestly, I haven't even looked at this game.
3% DJ Moore doesn't project super well at 66. I don't know, man. I think
1% Keenan Allen. I kind of like Cole Kmet, to be honest, in this matchup.
Interesting, yeah.
1% owned Cole Kmet, 4,700. He got 2 touchdowns last week.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could take a stab at DJ Moore too.
Can you play Caleb Williams?
I think you could, yeah. 6,000. Maybe a little Caleb Williams with a DJ Moore, maybe a little Kmet. One of the two. I don't know if Kmet's my favorite play, but
what do you feel about Swift this week? I feel like it's not a Swift week. And that's just a gut. I have nothing to base that on. He's been good.
I mean, he's been getting the touches.
Mm-hmm. Does this game have blow up potential? Chicago's defense is kind of good, though.
Yeah, I don't think it does. I think that I've tried to attack both of these teams at different points over the last couple of years, thinking that it could be a sneaky game, and it just doesn't feel like that's something that I want to do. I think I'm going to kind of avoid that, and I like the other games that we've identified. Even looking at these other 2 games that we haven't talked about yet, I know one of them is relatively popular, but man, I don't know how I feel about these other 2 games and whether or not I want to attack either of them.
Well,
I certainly don't want anything to do with Bo Nix as the one of the chalkiest quarterbacks on the slate.
Yeah, I mean, I see that, right? So we got the Broncos hosting the Panthers. The Broncos are on a little bit of a tear. They've looked good. Javonte Williams has looked good. He's going to be highly owned because everybody knows you attack Carolina. But I mean, dude, 6,000 for a guy who's pretty much, you can write him in for 20 points. I mean, I'm probably going to eat that chalk and get different elsewhere, man. I mean, they look like they've just been handing them the ball. You know, Sean Payton just loves to hand the ball. I like Javonte Williams. I see the Bo Nix because he can run, and Carolina can't contain anything. I get it, but like, dude could have a 75 yards, 0 touchdowns game with 60 yards rushing, 0 rushing touchdowns, and then you got 3 points, you get 9 points out of a quarterback in a game they win by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, Javante's a hard fade for me. I get the play. I understand it. But if you look at his attempts the last couple of weeks, 16, 13, 6, and 14, does have a little bit of involvement in the pass game that makes you I'll feel a little bit better about that. But you've got McLaughlin in that backfield too that's getting touches. It could just as easily be one of those situations, just like we saw with Detroit, Minnesota, albeit late in the game. Montgomery fumbles, doesn't get in there, and then all of a sudden Gibbs gets the rest of the touches. What if Javonte fumbles the ball?
No, that's true. But there was a narrative for a couple of weeks in a row there, 3-4 weeks in a row with Carolina, that the second string running back was getting like quadruple value. And you got him at 4,600 with Jaleel McLaughlin. That's a nice little punt play against the worst rush defense in the league.
So I think that's a really deep play that you maybe, if you do want to play like an afternoon slate, large GPP, trying to, take down 6 figures, that might be a play that you kind of sneak into some ways there. But
sure. And, 5 games, there's going to be some big contests in a 5-gamer. They're going to load that contest up. Yeah.
Well, for sure. And you look at the other running backs, while there are like, there is the Dobbins, there is Ken Walker and a couple of these other guys. Outside of those two, obviously there's Swift, there's Hunt, there's a couple of these guys that you could plug in there, but why not a 4,600 backup running back that could steal 2 touchdowns? Why not?
Yeah, and if Carolina is bad, because Denver's defense is good, and Bryce Young is starting again, throws 2 picks, and they are up 21-3 at halftime, they might just sit Williams and just let McLaughlin and what's the other guy? Estime?
Yep.
Carry the ball. All right, let's talk about the last game. We got one left. We got the Kansas City Chiefs heading over to Las Vegas. You got the Chiefs at 9.5-point favorites. Mahomes hasn't paid off one time this year. Does adding Hopkins change that or not really for you? Doc says that I know Hopkins is old, but he plays the same kind of style and finds the same holes that Rashee Rice does. He's just obviously not as fast. Any love for it?
Yeah, dude. If Juju can come out here and get like 70 yards, like Hopkins definitely can. I mean, Hopkins isn't who he was on the outside, but he still has had a couple of those games over the last 2-3 years where
he's got sticky hands.
Yeah, he's a point of a point of catch kind of contest guy at this point, and he's still one of the best at that. So he might not be as fast, but we're not expecting him probably to run some of those routes. Maybe I don't know. I like Hopkins. I've played Hopkins a lot this year with Will Levis, and so now if you're going to tell me that he's with Patrick Mahomes, although Levis is having maybe a better statistical season, that's got to switch. There's got to be some regression at some point, right? There's going to be a week this year, and why not this week, where a Mahomes stack just absolutely explodes.
Well, I'd love to see where it is, but apparently Kansas City and the Raiders are missing from Pater's system right now. So we're going to have to get on James about that. So, because they ain't in here.
No, I mean, you're looking at stacks. I mean, I see Steele.
No, I mean, I'm sorry. They aren't in here. I guess Hopkins isn't in here. I see the other players.
Okay.
I do not see Hopkins at his 5,700. He's not here.
No, he's much less than that.
I thought he was 57. Am I wrong?
Hopkins is 4,900.
No, that's why I couldn't find him. Also, his projections are terrible in here. Not good at all.
Hey, projections are only as good as the person belief in those projections. And so, that's you're trying to project where he's going to be, what kind of market share he's going to have. Sure. And that's unknown. So I think that is
total unknown.
it's going to be. It's a difficult one to kind of put in there and get a median, but I like DeAndre Hopkins. I will probably play, I don't know what contest, but I'll probably play a couple Mahomes stacks.
Well, I don't care for it much, but it's a 425 game, so it's going to get overexposed to my lineups.
Yeah, that's why that Buffalo-Seattle game is probably...
I know. I'm licking my lips at that. Licking my lips at that, baby. Loving it.
See a lot of there.
I just there's nothing worse than being in like first, second, third place and just watching everybody catch up to you. I hate it. I much prefer being in like 20th and passing people left and right.
Yeah, look,
it's an emotional thing, Chris. It's an emotional thing.
Well, it's the same reason that people don't like playing unders, right? So like if you're playing a late night hammer, it's the same thing as playing an over. There's always a possibility that it gets there, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there are plenty of times where you fucking know that they're not getting there. Like I knew Dobbins wasn't getting there after. I was like, all right, well, we've got a couple more series. If he gets like 30 yards here, he got 5. Okay, we're pretty much dead.
Yeah.
He could still bust off a run. And look, Pollard did it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, right. Oh,
he busted out a big run.
Yeah.
My wife's aunts were in town, and like I was in the bedroom. She was walking to the bathroom, and I was jumped up. I was like, yeah, and I had a ton on his props, and I totally thought he was dead, and it scared her, and she thought I wanted to go to the bathroom, and I didn't. I was just excited that Tony Pollard had busted out and hit his over, which at that point there was like a market share. I didn't think it was going to happen. It was kind of funny. And then, I mean, even at the end of that, he scored that anytime touchdown to hit the over, to do a lot of different things. Whereas, look, man, if you bet it under on a guy for like, let's say he's got 40 yards receiving and he gets that in the first quarter off of one catch, your bet's dead, right? Like, so that's why people don't like betting unders. It's the same reason that you don't like playing the early games. But
it's true. I hate it. I don't like defending. I like attacking.
There's plenty of times that you get out in front and you stay out in front, and there's nothing that anybody can do about it.
Chris, I was a shooting guard and I was a shooting guard and I was a quarterback. I like attacking. I don't like defense.
Well, it's funny because what was it? The first day of Worlds for League of Legends, they had the DraftKings 100,000 to first contest. It was an 8-game slate, and literally the first game, like, busted out, and all the ownership was on the last 2 games.
Yeah.
The first game bust out. It's like, wow, I guess you needed these guys to win now. The next game, it blew up. The next game, it blew up. The one game that had all of that ownership at the end, it dudded 7-1.
Did nothing.
Every other game exploded.
I miss it, man. I miss the getting up to pee at 3:45 in the morning and then forgetting that I have like $200 in League of Legends matches going, and then looking at it and then starting to text you at 4 a.m. and you're like, yeah, dude, yeah. But they took it away from me here in Michigan, sir.
Yeah, well, and this was fun because this was in Europe, so it started at
Sorry, all you football fans, you can log out now. See ya.
It starts at 8 a.m. and that 8-game slate went till like 3-4 in the afternoon. And I was working retail, so I'm constantly like, and my employer at the time was like, we don't want you on your phone. I'm like, I don't have anything to do, so I'd have to like walk around and hide my phone a little bit more. Partially, probably why I don't work there anymore.
You just need to get a job at the American Eagle and just set your phone in the jeans section and just fold jeans for an hour.
Yeah, well, look, I interviewed for a job today, and like this company has their shit together. I was thoroughly impressed. Like I interviewed for a job last week where I kind of knew before I even had the pre-screen that like I had the job. I was like, yeah, I'm open at like I could do a phone call in the morning or I could meet in the afternoon. You tell me. He's like, how about a phone call?
Anybody, if you're listening to this in the podcast version, just close it down now. We're good.
And so I knew, like, I got there and we like kind of stared at each other. I was like, okay, so I'm in control. Like you've hired me just because I showed up. And I get it. It's a full commission job. It fits. It's good. It's whatever. This other place, dude, they asked me some like really like deep questions, not necessarily like hard, but like what kind of manager best suits you? Can you tell me about like some bad managers that you've had? How do you like to be managed? I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, just leave me the fuck alone.
I just want to watch my DraftKings scores. Just let me be. Let me be.
The final question, he goes, if you could be any movie character or TV character, who would you be and why? I'm like, bro, I don't know. This is such a loaded question that I know you're saying it doesn't matter, but when I used to interview people and I said it didn't matter, it fucking mattered. I had some ulterior motive there. The fact that it was at the end probably didn't, and I was like, look, man, I don't watch a lot of TV. If I would to grab something, I'm watching I'm going to pull a character from there, but none of them really resonate. Sure. I guess I should have just fucked them up and said Dexter Morgan,
Dexter,
and then just
Walter White. Yeah.
I think Walter White's a little bit more like understandable, but Dexter's pretty dark,
Pretty dark. I like it. Hey, before we get out of here, Chris, do my beat down, dilapidated 49ers, are they going to be the Cowboys springboard back into the win column, or are my Niners going to take care of business? What do you think?
I think the Niners can still beat them pretty well. I mean, they're dilapidated at the receiver, but they still got a slew of running backs.
No, that's true. I don't know if you saw, but Juwan Jennings ruled out earlier today.
No, I didn't see that.
So Pearsall is officially wide receiver 2 for them.
So that's on a Sunday night slate?
Yes, and Debo is still strongly questionable. So Ricky Pearsall might be wide receiver 1 Sunday night.
So we're going to play 3 running backs from the 49ers?
Yeah, we're going to play Guarendo. Yep, and Mason. And Juszczyk's probably going to spend most of his day in the slot. So
nice. Should be a fun one.
That's going to be so gross. It's going to be awful. It's going to be a terrible game. I think Dallas is going to get back in the win category. I think that they're already checked out into their bye week next week for the 49ers and looking for CMC back in week 10. I think they've just written this week off, and I'm really worried that Dallas steamrolls them and they go into their bye 3-5.
I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Dallas is very good, man.
I agree. I hope for the best. Well, we got a little off the rails only at the end there, everybody. Really appreciate it. You can catch us both in the Discord. Chris still chimes in on occasion over at drroto.com. We've got all kinds of great stuff over there, and hang out right here on the YouTube channel if that's where you're watching it, because Friday Night Lights with Doc, Swami, and Willie Wall starts in about 15 minutes. And you can catch us. Maybe we'll come back again. This was pretty fun. I'm not gonna lie. I've missed you, Chris. We're the best looking duo on YouTube.
We'll see how this works out for us. I mean, if Cincinnati and Philly and Buffalo and Seattle blow up, I think we'll be back here next week.
Be back.
If they flame out, you probably won't see us for a year.
You'll never see us again. It's fine. All right, everybody. We'll see you later.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. And until the next visit, be well